Hello and welcome to Did You Know Gaming Extra. Today we're going to be looking at trivia from a number of PC titles. This is a bit different for us, considering the absolutely staggering volume of games that are either exclusive to PC or released first on the platform. But before we get into the trivia, we'd like to talk to you about this video sponsor, Might and Magic: Era of Chaos. Might and Magic: Era of Chaos is an epic army battle strategy RPG set in the fantasy world of Might and Magic. The game's campaign is massive, taking place in the Kingdom of Erathia across 18 chapters and 255 story missions. The kingdom has fallen to dark forces and you must join Queen Catherine Iron Fist on a quest to recruit legendary heroes, assemble an army, and restore Erathia. Era of Chaos is a high-level strategy game that's hard to master, with victory depending on your formations and preparation. You can prove your skill and compete against friends and players worldwide in PvP modes like Arena, Duel of Champions, and Duel of Heroes. You can also join or make a guild to gather more resources, share them, and explore the lands of Erathia with your guildmates. You can even collect, train, and upgrade units from various classes to face tough bosses. If you're a fan of tough strategy games and epic storytelling, download Might and Magic: Era of Chaos for free on Android and iOS devices. And if you'd like to play with us and other people in the community, sign up and leave your in-game ID in the comment section below. One hot debate in the gaming industry is the argument of what video game came first. There's no simple answer, as the criteria for judging it is constantly changing. However, it is a little easier to answer what the first commercially sold video game was. To find an answer, we'll have to look back to 1979, traveling to the magical land of Finland. Unsurprisingly, the first game sold was a digital version of an already popular existing game, chess. Chess Mac, created for the Telmac TMC 1800 computer, was a chess sim game by Raimo Suonio. Raimo had a lucky break into the world of commercial releases, taking advantage of his existing job position in a computer store. The store included his game in their catalogue, resulting in a high volume of sales, a staggering 104 copies sold. That may seem small by today's standards, but at the time, this was a substantial number, considering the high barrier to entry for computers and its regional release exclusivity within Finland. It may not be the oldest video game to be created, but it certainly was the first commercially sold title, and even back then included its own Easter eggs. Within the software are two different versions of John Conway's Game of Life, a simple mathematical visualization that plays out the evolution of a single input based on rules which determine how a cell will change and alter the cells surrounding it. This is defined by 4 rules dictated by the cell's position around other live or dead cells, which is exactly as exciting as it sounds. From the first commercial PC game to a game that almost certainly should never have been sold, the infamous big rigs over-the-road racing. The game is well known for being largely unfinished and only playable in the strictest technical terms. Some noteworthy issues include no collision detection, the timer being purely for show, and frequent violations of the laws of physics. While reversing, it's possible for the player to reach a displayed speed of over 1 octillion times the speed of light. For those of you who may not know, 1 octillion is a 1 followed by 27 zeros, and there are very few, if any, actual trucks that can go that fast in reverse. Interestingly, for such an unfinished game, the file contains a number of unused vehicles, namely a Ford Expedition, a Toyota Celica, a Hummer H1, and a Nissan 350Z. These vehicles seem to be functional, or at least as functional as the rest of the game, although the Hummer's textures only render the alpha channel for most of the model. These are likely left over from the sister project, Midnight Race Club Supercharged, not to be confused with Rockstar's Midnight Club series. While both games were released in a pre-alpha state, they were initially a single game before being split into 2 projects for unknown reasons. Another game with some unusual leftovers is Imagine Engine's 2004 Pokémon Masters Arena. This title is a collection of simple Pokémon-themed minigames published by ValueSoft. As you might expect, it was a low-budget title leveraging the Pokémon license, and by the nature of shovelware development, it's common for these types of games to be simple reskins of other games by the same developer. In this case, the game actually has leftover content from several other games, including graphics and audio from Blue's Clues Blue Takes You to School, Care Bears Let's Have a Ball, and Jonah, a VeggieTales game. Needless to say, these files go entirely unused in the actual game. Moving on to a series with a far more reliable development team, Black and White was developed by Lionhead Studios and designed by Peter Molyneux. Molyneux is a man who famously never overpromises on his games except for all the times he's done that. The first game in the series introduced an innovative and remarkable mechanic where the player could raise their own creature and manipulate their AI by punishing or praising their behavior. Unfortunately for those digital companions, the game contained a small logical bug where scolding your creature after it defecated would cause it to be permanently constipated. Thankfully, a patch was released which fixed this particular problem, but the sequel, fittingly named Black and White 2, contained an Easter egg that may have been more effective at loosening bowels. Whenever someone dies in the game, a voice can be heard quietly whispering "death" to notify the player. However, if the game recognizes the name in the game's profile, it will occasionally whisper that instead with no prior warning or explanation. However, on a more solemn note, the game's City of Heroes featured an NPC by the name of Matthew Bragg, also known as Coyote, often appearing to give guidance or instruct new players on how to play the game. This NPC was a tribute to the real Matthew Bragg, a regular on the official City of Heroes forums under the name Coyote, prior to the game's release, known for his helpful and friendly nature, particularly towards new members. Sadly, he passed away shortly after the game's release, prompting the developers to memorialize him in their game. However, with the servers shutting down on November 30th, 2012, any official means to access the game, along with this in-game tribute, no longer exists. The fan-favorite post-apocalyptic RPG Fallout New Vegas was unfortunately riddled with many bugs and glitches on release due to a shockingly short 18-month development cycle. The final update for the PC version of the game was released on July 7th of 2011. However, on December 29th of the same year, Josh Sawyer, the game's project director, released a mod for the game, simply known as jsawyer.esp. While not an official update or patch, the mod was intended to bring a number of tweaks and changes to the game that were never implemented prior to release. Some noteworthy changes include a huge difficulty rebalance, making food and water much more rare, lowering the level cap from 50 to 35 while also lowering the amount of experience received, and reducing carry capacity to just a third of the vanilla game. Along with these more punishing changes, the mod also fixes several bugs and rebalances a number of weapons and armor, as well as removing the need for special training to use the game's iconic power armor. To quote Josh Sawyer himself, "This is not official and it's not a patch. If it disintegrates your game, do a Kareem and skyhook the .esp into your recycle bin," referencing American basketball player Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and his trademark hookshot. Law & Order Double or Nothing is a largely unremarkable 2003 adventure game based on the TV series Law & Order. However, in 2007, 4 years after its initial release, it was mired in controversy over a complaint about a single image found in the game. The complaint was received from Denise Fergus, and the image in question was taken from CCTV footage recorded in 1993. It shows her son, 2-year-old James Bulger, being led out of a shopping centre by two 10-year-old boys, Robert Thompson and John Venables, shortly before his murder. Miss Ferguson believes her son's death should not be used for entertainment purposes and that it dehumanizes him by turning what happened into an urban myth. It's a true and very sad story. Speaking of crimes in video games, in 2004, New Zealand's Office of Film and Literature Classification, or OFLC for short, concluded a year-long investigation into Running with Scissors' notorious first-person shooter, Postal 2. The report found that the game contained, among other things, the ability to inflict violence or humiliation on other human beings, racist, sexist, and homophobic humor, offensive stereotypes of homosexuals, Asians, Muslims, conservatives, and others, and that the game, quote, promotes and supports the use of urine in association with degrading and dehumanizing conduct. At the conclusion of the investigation, the government body placed a blanket ban on the game, meaning that any individual caught in possession of the game could face up to a year in prison or a fine of approximately $14,000. And for retailers or other large distributors, that number could go up to around $38,000. Surprisingly, these punishments were comparably lenient, with a 2015 update to their own official guidelines increasing the numbers dramatically to 10 years in prison and fines of either $50,000 or $100,000 for individuals or distributors, respectively. This ban has never been officially lifted and still stands to this day. And now it's time for this episode's random piece of trivia. We're going to be taking a look at NASA's New Horizons probe. While not a video game, if not for the console gaming industry, NASA would have had to look elsewhere when setting out to study Pluto. In 2015, the New Horizons probe transmitted the first close-up photographs taken of the surface of Pluto, helping scientists around the world study one of the most distant celestial bodies within our solar system. This probe was powered by a 32-bit Mongoose V processor, a chip based on the MIPS R3000, a chip featured in Sony's original PlayStation. This chip had enough power not just to run cheesy on the console, but NASA believed with 4 of these MIPS chips combined, it would be possible to utilize this power to explore the very fringes of the Milky Way. The probe holds 2 computer systems, one for handling data and another for guidance and control, both systems being duplicated. The probe blasted away from our planet in 2006, 12 years after the Sony PlayStation was released. While it's been away, Sony released the 3rd and 4th iterations of their home consoles, and Pluto was relegated to a dwarf planet.
It's not a planet!
That's all for today. I don't know when this video is going out, but it's probably my last one before, an old crimbo. So everybody, have a good Christmas. Have a happy new year. It's cold out there. Get yourself a nice hot coffee. Ooh, I mean, this coffee's not hot anymore. I've been doing this for like 20 minutes. It's good though. Merry Christmas, everyone. What did you ask Santa for?